Love, we write poems about it, sing songs about it. It's this endless source of fascination. But what if I told you that this incredible human emotion isn't just magic? What if it's also biology, chemistry, and evolution all wrapped up into one powerful package? Okay, let's get into it and really decode the science behind love.
You know that feeling, right? That spark, that connection that feels like it was just meant to be? We've called it fate for centuries. But what's actually happening inside our brains and our bodies when that hits? Well, science is starting to peel back the layers of that mystery, and honestly, the answers are even more amazing than the myths.
So first things first, the really big question: why do we even love at all? It turns out this incredibly intense feeling isn't just for poets and songwriters. It's actually a fundamental part of our evolutionary blueprint. It's a tool that has helped our species survive and thrive for millennia.
When you think about it from a survival perspective, it makes perfect sense. Human babies are uniquely helpless, and for a really long time. They need years and years of constant care. So, love basically evolved as this superglue to keep two parents invested and working together, creating a stable team to make sure their kids made it to adulthood. It's a survival strategy, hardwired right into us.
Okay, so let's get to that initial spark. What is it that makes us look at one person in a crowded room and just feel that pull? Science tells us it's not random at all. Your brain is running a lightning-fast, totally unconscious calculation based on some very specific signals.
And it pretty much boils down to three key things. First, our brains are scanning for physical cues. Things like facial symmetry, which is a subtle unconscious signal of good genes and good health. Second, we're picking up on behavioral traits, like kindness or a sense of humor, which suggests someone would be a good partner and parent. And then, there's the hidden one: chemical signals.
And this is where it gets really wild. We're talking about pheromones. These are basically invisible chemical messages that our bodies send out, giving clues about our DNA. And some really cool research shows that we're often drawn to people whose immune system genes are different from our own. It's evolution's incredibly clever way of making sure that if we had kids, they'd get the best of both worlds and have a stronger defense against diseases.
All right, so you've met someone, that attraction is there, and things start to click. What happens next is nothing short of a full-blown chemical takeover of your brain. Falling in love? It's not a calm, peaceful float down a river. It's actually turbulent, biochemically stressful, even. But, in the most exhilarating way possible.
The first chemical on the scene is dopamine. You've probably heard of it. It's the pleasure chemical. When you're falling for someone, your brain's reward centers get absolutely flooded with it. This is what gives you that intense high, that euphoria and motivation. It's the chemical that's basically screaming, yes, this person feels amazing, go get more of that feeling.
But here's the twist. At the very same time, your cortisol levels, that's your main stress hormone, they shoot way up. Your body is essentially mobilizing all of its energy for what it sees as a high-stakes, incredibly important mission: winning that person's affection. It's exactly why new love can feel both incredible and totally nerve-wracking.
And then there's serotonin, the mood regulator. While all that dopamine and cortisol is surging, your serotonin levels actually drop. Now, what's so fascinating about this is that these low serotonin levels look a lot like what doctors see in people with obsessive-compulsive disorder. And that might just explain why you literally can't stop thinking about them in those early days.
So you put it all together and you get this very specific, very potent chemical cocktail. You've got dopamine and cortisol through the roof, while serotonin takes a nosedive. This crazy combination is precisely what creates that all-consuming, head-over-heels, can't eat, can't sleep feeling of falling in love.
Now, obviously, we can't live in that state of high-alert obsession forever. Our bodies just aren't built for that kind of intensity long-term. So the question is, how does that initial fiery passion transform into a stable, lasting partnership? Well, the brain's chemistry has to shift gears.
Scientists like to break it down into 3 stages. Stage 1 is lust, which is really just driven by basic sex hormones. Stage 2 is attraction. That's the dopamine-fueled obsessive phase we were just talking about. But then, if the bond deepens, we move into stage 3, attachment. And this is where different chemicals like oxytocin and vasopressin, the bonding hormones, take over, creating feelings of calm, security, and deep connection.
But does that mean the spark has to fade? Not at all. And this is maybe one of the most hopeful findings in all of this. This quote from Harvard Medical School tells us that long-term partners who still feel madly in love continue to get that same dopamine reward hit that they did in the very beginning. The deep, calm attachment can absolutely coexist with that passion.
Of course, we have to talk about the other side of the coin, because not all love lasts, and when that deep bond of attachment gets broken, the fallout isn't just in your head or your heart. The pain of heartbreak is a real physiological event that your body feels in a very profound way. It sounds like something from a tragic poem, doesn't it? Not a medical textbook. Can you actually die from a broken heart? Well, the answer, in some very rare and extreme cases, is yes. The emotional stress from a profound loss can have a direct and sometimes dangerous impact on our physical health.
This brings us to a real medical condition called Takotsubo syndrome, which is literally nicknamed broken heart syndrome. It happens when intense emotional stress causes a sudden but temporary weakening of the heart muscle. That massive surge of stress hormones can literally stun the heart, causing part of it to swell up. Thankfully, for most people, it's reversible.
And here's the core of why heartbreak feels so physically awful. To your brain, it is a physical event. Brain scans show that the parts of our brain that light up when we feel physical pain are the exact same areas that activate during social rejection or heartbreak. Your brain processes a broken heart a lot like it processes a broken arm.
So when you look at all of this, the evolution, the crazy chemistry, the very real pain of loss, it all points to one massive conclusion. Our need for connection isn't a weakness. It's not a luxury. It is a core biological imperative. It's just as critical to our survival as food or water.
And we have incredible data to prove it. The Harvard study of adult development is one of the longest-running studies of human life ever. And after more than 80 years, they found that the single greatest predictor of who would be happy and healthy into their old age wasn't their cholesterol or how much money they had, it was the quality of their relationships.
And the flip side of that coin is just as stark. We now have tons of evidence showing that loneliness and social isolation are absolutely devastating for our health. They're linked to an increased risk of just about everything you don't want. Heart attacks, strokes, dementia, you name it. Our bodies and brains are just not designed to go it alone.
So we can look at the evolutionary pressures. We can map the chemical reactions. We can see the brain activity. We're getting a really good picture of how love works. But does knowing the physics of a sunset make it any less beautiful to watch? Understanding the science behind love doesn't take away the magic. If anything, it just gives us a deeper appreciation for the incredible, elegant system that makes this most human of experiences possible.